The moonscape was made of silence. Not the kind one finds in the vacuum between stars, this was heavier. It pressed into the skin, into the bone. Like grief had grown wings and come home. Nalith Virion stood on a high ridge of fractured crystal, watching the mineral sea below her swirl under the aurora veil. It wasn't water. The lake was made of molten silicates, cooled just enough to reflect the sky like tarnished silver. She used to swim in it, once, when she still believed memory could be outrun. That had been centuries ago. Now she no longer believed anything. Karist had no atmosphere to speak of, no real rotation, and no reason to exist, except as a tomb. Once, long ago, the moon had served as a listening post for the Empire of Eurythia, a place from which to spy on stars and whisper secrets to the edges of creation. The empire was gone now, and Karist had been left to decay, its glass towers buried in ash and its ancient machines humming lullabies to no one. Nalith was the only thing alive here. Except, not anymore. The crash came on the 609th cycle of the moon's cold season. It began with heat, a tremor that made the tower ruins hum in their sockets, and then light, sudden and sharp, raking across the horizon like a falling sword. The object, a ship, clearly, but not one she recognized, cut through the upper atmosphere wrong, like a blade turned backward, fighting its own descent. The impact shattered silence. It broke apart the long, quiet decay like a stone hurled into still water. Dust rose. Heat bled into the atmosphere. Power flickered across the dormant field arrays. And something inside her stirred. She didn't know why she ran. She just ran. The wreck was spread across 4 ridgelines, its metallic bones cracked open like a skeleton after impact. Fire hissed where metal kissed ice, and shards of unfamiliar alloy had melted into the blackened snow. The crash site stank of ozone and hydraulic fluid and human blood. Nalith found the survivor under one of the larger wings, his body partially pinned beneath collapsed fuselage. His flight suit was torn at the ribs, and a small amount of steam escaped from the cracked helmet seal. The blood on the snow was red. A human, then. Or something close enough to pass. She crouched beside him, her long coat brushing the scorched ground. His eyes fluttered. Blue, like crushed sapphires. His lips were pale, and his skin was too cold. "You'll die if I leave you here," she murmured. His breath was ragged. "Then don't." She blinked. The human tongue came easily to her, though she hadn't spoken it in over 100 years. "You speak easily for someone nearly dead." "I've always had good timing," he rasped. Nalitha's fingers hovered over his ribs. Beneath her skin, old Eurythian biolattice stirred, activated by proximity to dying things. The Empire had once made healers this way, part machine, part empath, bound by law to save, not love. Her body responded before her thoughts could. A pulse of warmth left her hand, knitting fractured tissue, sealing burst blood vessels. She didn't heal him completely, just enough to survive transport. Pain was necessary. It taught humility. He groaned as she lifted him, surprisingly light in her arms. He smelled of fire and carbon. She turned toward the ruins. "What's your name?" she asked. He coughed again. "Jalen, Reese. Pilot, Scout Class." "Nalith," she said. "Don't die, Jalen Reese. I have questions." Jalen awoke inside a cathedral of stone and starglass. The ceiling arched like a shell, ridged with veins of glowing crystal. Phosphorescent moss lit the cracks in the floor, and faint pulses of data shimmered across embedded circuits in the walls. Outside, faint auroras filtered through a broken dome. Snow fell slowly. He didn't feel pain, not exactly. More like distant soreness. His ribs were tightly bandaged with something that smelled of burnt spice and old metal. She sat beside the low platform he lay on, silent as a statue. Her skin was pale, not white but opalescent, shimmering faintly with hues that shifted like oil on water. Her eyes were the color of starlight viewed through tears. "You saved me," he said. "You crashed on my moon," she replied. "It was inconvenient. Sorry about that." She tilted her head. Humans always apologize for things they can't control. He smiled faintly. Occupational hazard. They said nothing for a while. Time passed slowly on moons like this. "I didn't expect anyone to live out here," he said eventually. "Most don't. I am an exception." He didn't ask what that meant. He could feel the weight of her silence, and he respected it. "Nalith," he said, tasting the name. It felt old. Musical. "What is this place?" "A ruin." "Of what?" "Hope." Days passed. Jalen healed slowly. He explored the ruins under her watchful eye, learning their echoes and their languages. Karist had once been a transmission node for Eurythia, a hub for long-range memory archives. The Empire had encoded its dreams into crystal and broadcast them to its colonies. Now the archives flickered only sometimes, and the language they spoke had no translation matrix left. Nalith had stayed behind when the Empire fell. Or perhaps she had been left behind. She didn't say. Either way, she'd survived alone for centuries, listening to the voices of her ancestors die out one by one. Jalen listened too, now. He listened to her stories. To the way she brewed her tea with fragments of glowing stone. To the way she stared at the stars when she thought he wasn't watching. And slowly, gently, she began to let him in. She kissed him on the 13th day. It was snowing. They sat on the old observatory deck, staring at a star that no longer had a name. He had just told her about Earth's oceans, about how blue could taste like salt and sunlight. "That's impossible," she said, eyes bright. "You'll have to come see it." "I cannot leave," she whispered. "Why not?" "Because love breaks things." He turned toward her. "What if it builds them too?" She didn't answer. Just leaned in. Her kiss was soft, slow, uncertain. And utterly unforgettable. The dreams came that night. Not his. Hers. He woke screaming. Not from pain, but from memory not his own, columns of fire, burning palaces, voices chanting the final command. Let no love outlive the fall. Let no bond escape unbroken. If a Eurythian gives her heart to the stars will burn her name away. He sat up, heart racing, as Nalith stared at him from across the room. Her face was pale. Paler than usual. "You dreamt them too." "What was that?" "The last safeguard," she whispered. "The covenant spell. It binds our bloodlines. We were made to endure eternity, but never to love." Jalen stood slowly. "But you kissed me." "I know. You chose me." She closed her eyes. "I know. Then damn the covenant." "It doesn't matter what we believe," she said, voice breaking. "It's already started." The machines came back online the next morning. The archive towers, long dormant, pulsed with blue fire. The air shimmered. The lake boiled with seismic echoes. Nalith stood at the edge of the mineral water, listening. The signal repeated across every surface, written in code older than time. "The last covenant is broken. The heart engine stirs." "What's a heart engine?" Jalen asked, standing behind her. Her voice was a whisper. It was the Empire's last mistake. A machine built not for war, but for love. They wanted to make memory eternal. They succeeded. And now? Now that love has returned, her eyes filled with something like fear. It will awaken. And decide. Jalen took her hand. Then we face it. Together. She looked down at their entwined fingers. You'll die. Maybe. But I'd rather die loving you than live forgetting this. Her breath hitched. And then, for the first time in 1,000 years, she smiled. Above them, a signal pulsed toward the stars. And something out there pulsed back. He woke to the sound of fire, though there was none. In the dark shell of the drifting vessel Archie, Soren Kale opened his eyes for the first time in nearly 2 centuries. Above him, the ancient dome flickered with celestial static, stars he didn't recognize, a galaxy that had moved on without him. His body hummed with latent charge as the cryoseel retracted from his spine, and for a moment he lay still, remembering what it was to be something like alive. Then came the voice. Activation protocol, anomaly detected. Proximity echo to heart engine signal confirmed. All containment efforts failed. Stand by for executor contact. He cursed softly under his breath, voice gravelly from disuse. The ship had survived stasis, barely. His body had survived because it was built to, an artifact from a war no one remembered, a weapon crafted by the Ixari, a race erased by its own perfection. Soren wasn't supposed to feel anything. Emotion was a liability, they'd told him. His mind had been engineered to remain stable under catastrophic memory load, empathy suppressed, romance erased. And yet, he'd dreamed. The Archie drifted in a slow spiral around a dead star, no longer casting light, only gravity. The vessel was one of the last remaining archive nodes for the Ixari conflict vault, sealed at the war's end to prevent tampering with temporal-level artifacts. And now, the vault was open. Soren watched the anomaly on the ship's cracked NAV console, a pulse radiating outward from a point in Galactic Quadrant 6A, weak, but unmistakable. A heart engine had awakened. They were never meant to. The heart engines were theoretical convergence devices, emotion-powered singularities that could rewrite local spacetime under the influence of memory resonance. The Ixari had feared them. The Eurethians, apparently, had built them anyway. And now someone had broken a covenant, a romantic bond strong enough to trigger resonance. Impossible. The probabilities had been infinitesimal. Soren should have left it alone. He almost did. But the dreams, the ones that had begun to stir in the last months of stasis, dreams of stars weeping, of names spoken like poems. And of her. Imeri first appeared in a broadcast fragment. Soren accessed it while reactivating the Archaea's external comms array. The message was old, maybe 20 years. A soft-voiced plea, encrypted in a forgotten dialect of the Ixari substrate. If any archive nodes remain, we beg your help. The executors are coming. They've found the last Dreamforge. They will burn what remains. We need a way to preserve what matters. We need someone who remembers. Her face was grainy. Her voice shook. Soren didn't know why it shook him. He found her on the moon Narthex 7. It took 3 jumps, 1 manual warp, and a full reactor cycle burn just to reach the outer orbit. She was exactly as the message had shown, older now, but still luminous in her stillness. She wore the robes of a memory order, and her hands glowed faintly with a soft empathic biolight. She was repairing a broken archive spine when he landed. She didn't flinch as he approached. "You're late," she said. "I had to wake up first," he replied. She looked at him with eyes like copper dust. "You're one of the old ones. Ixari born. More like Ixari built. Does it hurt?" "Sometimes. When I remember things I wasn't supposed to." She smiled then. "Not sad. Just real. Good." The executors came sooner than expected. They always did. Cold, elegant machines forged by an unknown progenitor species, the executors believed in symmetry, emotional, historical, and universal. They didn't just kill people. They erased stories. The moment they detected a resonance spike, they arrived. 1 ship. Then 3. Then an entire fractal fleet, each vessel folding out of space with geometric grace. Soren and Imeri had only hours to prepare. "Why are you helping me?" she asked as they secured the archive core into Soren's ship. "Because someone built me to stop this. And because you asked." "Do you always do what people ask?" "No, only when it feels like remembering something important." She looked at him closely. "You've felt things before. You've loved someone." His jaw tightened. "Not allowed." "But you did." "Yes." "And what happened?" He didn't answer. Instead, he kissed her. It was brief. Uncertain. Like learning a language you'd once known but forgotten. And yet, in that moment, Soren felt something break inside him. A barrier. A protocol. A law, old and binding. Something deep in his chest, code written into organocybernetic tissue, flared red. Covenant breach, level 4, emotional surge detected. Existential integrity compromised. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. "I wanted to," she said. "So did you. It might kill me. Then let's make it worth the dying." They ran. The Archie carried them through collapsing worm space, engines overclocked and leaking radiation. The executors gave chase, but couldn't predict emotional trajectories. That was the flaw in their calculations. They could read reason. They could not read love. Soren deteriorated quickly. His body began to reject its own systems. Neural overlays misfired. Logic partitions failed. His memories bled into each other. Imeri never left his side. "What if we make it to the engine?" he asked, shaking in the pilot's seat. "Then we give it something no one else has," she said. "What's that?" "Ourselves." They reached it at the edge of the Helios rift. The heart engine slumbered in a cluster of fractured moons, embedded in the gravity well of a neutron singularity. It wasn't a machine in the traditional sense, more like a crystalline heart suspended in light, pulsing in rhythm with something that wasn't time. "It's waiting for a story," Imeri said, hands trembling. "What kind of story?" "A true one. About love. Loss. Memory. Sacrifice. Do we qualify?" She leaned her head against his. "Let's find out." As they approached, the executors arrived. Not ships, this time. Avatars. Faceless beings of chrome and anti-light, they stepped into real space through quantum rifts, their voices modulated through 100 broken languages. Emotional resonance unacceptable. Memory contamination imminent. Submission required. Soren stepped forward. "You want my memory?" "Affirmative." "Then take it." And he opened the memory vault embedded in his spine. For a moment, everything paused. Even the heart engine dimmed. And then the executors screamed. Because what they received wasn't logic. Wasn't war data. It was grief. Every moment Soren had ever buried. Every face he had tried to forget. Every lover he'd watched die, every promise he'd failed to keep. And Imeri, every second since meeting her. Every laugh, every look, every time she'd touched his face like he was real. The executors staggered. For the first time in 1,000 years, they could not process what they had consumed. And the heart engine awoke. It pulsed once. Twice. And then opened like a flower of light. Imeri reached out her hand. Soren took it. And in that moment, the engine didn't consume them. It remembered them. And chose to keep their story. Soren's body failed 5 minutes later. Imeri held him until the end, whispering all the things she didn't have time to say before. His last words were simple. "Don't forget." And she never did. The engine absorbed his essence, not to destroy, but to preserve. To store. And in doing so, it changed her. Her empathy expanded beyond species, beyond self. Her touch could now awaken slumbering archives, mend trauma with a word. She became a living recorder of the love that broke the stars. She returned to the memory order with the story in her bones. And the heart engine slept again. Waiting. For the next story worth remembering. No one hears light. And yet, Leary Voss lived her life listening to it. She was born on a drifting orbital monastery called Kirill 5, among a sect that believed the cosmos could be read like scripture, not in sound, but in light pulse language. She was born voiceless, her vocal cords fused from a genetic anomaly inherited from her mother's lineage. But the monks taught her how to speak anyway. Not in words. In pulses. In skin. Her entire body was her voice. From her scalp to her ankles, her pale skin shimmered with light-sensitive tattoos, thin, intricate filaments that glowed according to her emotions, thoughts, and intent. When she was calm, they radiated warm amber. When she was afraid, cool silver rippled along her arms like moonlight. And when she felt something, deeper, her whole body sang in violet. At age 23, Leary left the monastery and joined Expeditionary Vessel 7, an interspecies research ship crewed by outcasts, specialists, and dreamers. Their mission, to explore the ruins of civilizations lost to time and cosmic indifference. She specialized in lost dialects and extinct sensory languages. She wasn't made for war. But she was made for listening. It was near the clouded dwarf star Hesthera that they found the gravitic ruin. A floating station, or what remained of one, orbiting a collapsed planet. Gravity was warped inside the structure, spatial folds twisting corridors into recursive loops. The entire place was whispering. Not in words. Not in energy. In pressure. A pulse too deep for radio. Too complex for math. Leary felt it before they entered. Her skin lit up like a low ember. Her fingers tingled with static that wasn't electricity. The ruin was alive. Or trying to remember how to be. He found her in one of the lower cathedrals. The ship's sensor tech, Tomas Harth. He was human, though not like most. Born blind. Not from injury, but a genetic mutation known on Earth as sonic inversion disorder. His brain interpreted sound waves not just as hearing, but as spatial images. A kind of living sonar. He could see in ways others couldn't. And more importantly, he could hear things no one else did. When Leary first met him, she expected him to pity her silence. Instead, he told her. You glow when you're curious. She'd never heard anything more intimate in her life. They worked together often after that. He mapped frequency. She mapped light. In the ruins, the signal was growing stronger. The whispering pressure resolved into patterns, then tones. Leary noticed the vibrations matched ancient Vaetheri writing systems, symbols that expressed grief as a gravitational shift and language as orbital change. She ran her hand along the curve of a corridor, her fingertips catching small, vibrating ridges. Tomas stood beside her. It's talking, she signed with her hands, her skin flickering in pale gold. What's it saying? He asked. Her pulse changed, lavender with flecks of silver. It remembers us. They discovered the chamber 3 days later. A sphere of suspended black glass hung in the center of the station's collapsed core. It floated within a cage of golden light, a gravitational nexus. Leary stepped inside before anyone could stop her. And the sphere opened. It wasn't an object. Not fully. It was a shard. A piece of something greater. A fragment of a heart engine. But unlike the one Soren and Imeri had touched, this one was half awake. Not dormant, not dead, just fractured. When Leary touched it, the tattoos along her spine lit up in a cascade of deep amethyst and white. Images poured into her mind, memories of other people. Ancient ones. A woman kissing another beneath twin moons. A father leaving a message for a son he'd never meet. A warrior breaking her blade to save her enemy. The shard was memory, but not hers. It was asking permission to keep them. Tomas pulled her out of the trance. His hands on her shoulders, his voice low but firm. Your heartbeat was spiking. Your temperature dropped. I thought I lost you. She signed slowly, her skin trembling in pale blue. It didn't hurt. It just wanted to know if it was allowed to remember. That's a terrifying thought, he whispered. Not terrifying, she signed. Lonely. From that day on, she and Tomas were inseparable. It began as necessity, shared shifts, complementary skill sets. But it became more. He taught her how to sing by resonance. How to hum in a way that made her tattoos respond. She learned to shape her words in the way her voice should have sounded, if it existed. And in return, she taught him how to feel in silence. How to read skin. Emotion. The things that hide between spoken words. He learned that when her light went pink, she was laughing. When it went deep green, she was dreaming. And when it turned soft violet, she was in love. One night, in the shadow of the heart shard, he traced his fingers along her arm. What color are you now? She touched his chest. Her skin shimmered into starlit rose. I'm yours, she signed. He closed his eyes. And for once, saw nothing but her. The ruin began to hum louder in the days that followed. The shard responded to them, resonated when they touched. Their feelings fed it, and it began to learn. But it also began to attract attention. The executors arrived without warning. 3 ships. No lights. No announcement. Only an overwhelming signal. Resonance contamination confirmed. Emotional vector breach. Recovery and reset in progress. Tomas grabbed her hand. We have to seal the shard. Or they'll destroy it. She nodded. They ran. But the shard had other plans. It activated as they reached the core. A pulse of violet and gold light filled the station, suspending time within its radius. The executors couldn't enter. Tomas and Leary were alone in the chamber. She turned to him. Glowing. Her entire body shimmered with every color she had ever felt in his presence, joy, longing, fear, devotion. He reached up and placed both palms on either side of her face. You never needed to speak, he said. You've always been louder than anyone I've ever known. She smiled. And then the shard responded. A thin beam of light emerged from its center and struck Tomas in the chest. His body changed. At first it was light. Then structure. Then symmetry. His face twisted in agony, but not pain. Not death. Transformation. And when it was over, he stood before her, half human, half executor. His hands still shook. His eyes were still his. But his voice. Leary, he said. I can hear everything now. Even the things you didn't say. She reached out. Touched his face. Her tattoos flickered a soft white. Do you still love me? She asked with her light. He smiled, aching. More than ever. He had become a bridge. The shard had chosen him to be a conduit, between memory and oblivion. Between executor logic and emotional resonance. He could survive outside the field now. He could carry their story beyond this place. But she could not. Not yet. Go, she told him. Spread the signal. Tell the others. Find the rest. I won't leave you. You have to. Her skin burned with tears that never fell. Her entire body glowed blue. Grief. Longing. Farewell. He kissed her once. Softly. And stepped into the corridor of light. When the executors returned, he was waiting. Not as an enemy. But as a translator. You want to know what we're preserving, he said. I'll show you. And in the silence that followed. The executors listened. Not to words. but to light. And they did not erase the shard. They marked it. Contested. Pending consensus. And withdrew. Leary never left the ruin. She remained its guardian. Its voice. And as time passed, other fragments began to stir. And they remembered her. As the one who spoke in color. And taught the stars how to feel again. Some people are born in light. Orion Solon was born in a dying star. Not metaphorically. Literally. His first breath was taken inside the service ring of Rahel's eye, a yellow dwarf sun collapsing into red giant phase. He'd been born aboard a smuggler vessel scavenging isotopic fuel during solar quakes. His mother was a fusion engineer turned pirate. His father, unknown. Probably dead. Possibly never real. He was raised between reactor cores and silent trade deals, taught to keep one eye on gravity, the other on betrayal. By the time he was 16, he had 3 forged identities, 6 safe houses, and a memory that burned too clean to trust. His mother died young, swallowed by a plasma bloom while trying to extract unstable antimatter from a flare shelf. Orion never buried her. He just left. And never looked back. Now, 30 years later, he made his living flying contraband through dying systems. Relic fragments, ghost drives, illegal AI, spliced star matter. Things no one wanted seen. Things too dangerous to name. His current job. A sealed container made of mirrored urethane alloy. Delivered by drone. No markings. No questions. It pulsed once every 9.3 seconds. When he held it, it made his teeth ache. When he dreamed beside it, he dreamed of a woman he had never met. She stood beneath a dead moon. Her hair was dark blue, and her eyes shimmered like memory soaked in grief. She spoke no words. But he always woke crying. He hated that. The job was simple: deliver the object to the coordinates near the crescent fold, a starless region where light seemed to forget itself. But as he approached the fold, he detected another vessel. Not military. Not pirate. Something stranger. A sculpted hull of glass bone and meteor shell, shaped like an unfolding wing. And on its surface, markings in ancient Myalari script. Orion cursed. He had never seen the Myalari. But he knew what they were. Soulbinders. Star singers. Truthwalkers. Dead and extinct for centuries. Then she hailed him. Her voice was like breath over a flame. Soft, sure, and filled with things he didn't want to feel. You have something that belongs to my people. The shard. You must not deliver it. It's not yours anymore, he said flatly. I don't get involved. I just fly. You're already involved, Orion Solon. The shard called to you. It remembers you. You don't know me. Not yet, she said. But I dreamed of you before I was born. Her name was Kaylee. She boarded his ship the next day, unarmed, dressed in robes made of memory cloth, her eyes brighter than nova echoes. She was small. Thin. Fragile, it seemed. But Orion felt something in her presence that bent the air, a kind of stillness that didn't belong in the living. She looked at the shard container. And wept. You're one of them, he said. The last one. I thought your kind died in the last flare war. We did, she said. But I was never meant to be born. I was, remembered into existence. The shard carried us. He didn't want to trust her. But she didn't ask him to. She just sat with him in silence. Made tea the way his mother had once shown him. Slept with her forehead against the cold hull of the ship, as if listening to something no one else could hear. She had dreams at night. She whispered in her sleep. She said his name like she'd always known it. On the 4th night, the shard activated. Not violently. Just, softly. Its case peeled back like petals unfolding, and inside pulsed a shard of glowing crystal, smaller than a heart, larger than a lie. It pulsed in rhythm with their heartbeats. And then, with each other. Orion couldn't breathe. Kaylee reached out. It's time. For what? To make the choice. She explained it to him slowly, her voice trembling with prophecy she hadn't wanted. The heart engines were seated across the galaxy, not just as weapons or archives. They were hopes. Messages. Chances. Chances for what? For something new. Every time a bond strong enough forms, one willing to burn for another, it unlocks a peace. And when enough pieces awaken, the galaxy itself will remember what it was. You sound like a poet. I'm not. I'm a dying girl with a fading bloodline and a dream I can't outrun. He turned away. I'm just a smuggler. No, she said. You're my end. Or my beginning. That night, they made love beneath the shard's glow. Not out of lust. Out of knowing. Two people aching toward one another in defiance of stars, prophecy, extinction, fear. His hands trembled. Hers did not. She kissed his chest like a vow, and when she whispered, he finally let himself believe he was real. They didn't say the word love. They just breathed it. And when they slept, the shard sang. Kaylee was dying. She admitted it the next morning. Every time she used her soul-binding gift, her body broke down. The shard had preserved her, but only partially. The engine can fix it, he said. Maybe. You don't believe it. I believe it will do what's right. What if we are what's right? She said nothing. But her tears burned white across her cheeks. They reached the crescent fold 2 days later. Waiting for them were 3 executor vessels. And a choice. If they delivered the shard to the engine, Kaylee might survive, or die. If they ran, the shard would remain dormant. Her people lost. If they surrendered, the executors would erase everything. Orion had never believed in sacrifice. But when he looked at Kaylee, he believed in her. And that was enough. He sent a false signal, redirecting the executors into a nearby black zone. Then rerouted all auxiliary power into the jump core. The cost, no weapons. No shields. Only speed. Kaylee helped him guide the ship, her fingertips bleeding starlight as she channeled the shard's pulse into the NAV core. Together, they burned toward the breach. And just as the executors returned, they leapt. The jump shattered part of the ship. Orion blacked out. When he awoke, he was suspended in soft light. Floating. Kaylee was beside him. But her eyes were closed. The shard hovered above her chest, pulsing slower and slower. He screamed. And the heart engine heard him. The final scene burned into him. A kiss. Her voice in his ear, remember me. And then, her body dissolving into photons. The shard absorbed her light. And something changed. The engine did not just remember her. It rebuilt her. Not in flesh. In pattern. In light. She stood again, not Kaylee as she was, but Kaylee as she would always be. A fusion of memory and self. A guardian. A song. He wept. She held him. You chose me, she said. Always. And in the silence between heartbeats, the engine pulsed again. One more bond remembered. One more step toward the end of forgetting. He flies still. Carrying her echo across the stars. And she watches through him. A voice in light. A soul in flame. Unforgotten.